Hi, welcome to Reddit Tea Time. Struggling to decide if I'm the bonehead in this situation. Got lightly rear-ended turning out of the neighborhood yesterday. 35-year-old guy was super apologetic and there was very limited surface damage to my rear bumper. He agreed to pull into a nearby strip mall to exchange info but said he was in a hurry to get to work. We've been burned before in handshake accident info exchanges, so my husband now insists I always get a police report just in case damage is worse than it appears. Once dude realized I was calling the police, he starts begging me not to because he doesn't have a license and he can't go back to jail and he needs to get to work. He's dressed in casino deal uniform. He's pleading and insisting it's no big deal and I'm going to ruin his life over nothing. Keeps asking why I can't just take his insurance info. Plus, his dog is home alone. I insist on the police report just as documentation and apologize that it isn't personal and I can't be responsible for his issues. He was clearly panicked and calling work and his mom and someone to deal with the dog. Once police arrive, they quickly figure out he's not supposed to be driving and is cuffed and put in the squad car. Shortly after, an ambulance and fire truck pull up because he's apparently having a panic attack. So, am I the bonehead for not giving this dude a break? Feeling pretty terrible today. But at the same time, it's pretty standard to get a police report and dude shouldn't have been driving. Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. That insurance card was fake. Insurance companies do not write policies for unlicensed drivers. And if the policy was someone else's, all that person has to do is say the dude didn't have permission to be driving it and the insurance wouldn't cover it. Another commenter replied, "You absolutely can get insurance without a license. And in fact, if your license gets suspended, you typically need to prove that you have insurance in order to get it reinstated. Also, if you finance a car, your lender may require it to be insured as a condition of the note whether or not you maintain a valid driver's license. An unlicensed driver may not be able to get a policy from one of the big companies, but there are plenty of smaller, typically crappier insurance companies that will write these policies." Not the bonehead. If he's driving without a driver's license, he's most likely uninsured and may have given you false information. He's the reason laws are made in the first place. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Not the bonehead, but you're gonna live with that. Technically, you were right. Technically, he had no business being on the road. But depending on what happens to him, that is indeed going to be the cost of what you describe as very limited surface damage. But he was playing a losing game. All it would take is expired tags, a poor lane change, a California stop, what have you. Any traffic infraction would land this guy in the same place. This comment section is pissing me off so much. So many people are saying that since he has a criminal past, he deserves to have his life ruined. You all need to remember that felons are human too. Didn't think that was something that needed to be said, but here we are. Honestly, I don't think there's a bonehead in this situation. OP has a right to protect himself from being scammed, and the dude deserves to be able to get to work so that he and his dog don't starve. Unpopular, but you're the bonehead. Technically, you're right. Morally, I'd say you're a massive bonehead. You potentially assisted in ruining him over what you admit is minimal damage. I don't think very limited surface damage is worth potentially blowing up someone's life. So I'm going with the unpopular take that yeah, you're the bonehead. Worst case scenario, if he was indeed scamming you, is you have some unsightly scrapes on your bumper until you can afford to have it repaired. Sounds like his worst case scenario is a hell of a lot worse, with much more far-reaching consequences. You're the bonehead. I don't care that this is probably an unpopular opinion that will get downvoted out of sight. You know you effed this man over, and that's why you feel guilty. Unpopular opinion, but I'm stuck between everyone sucks here and you're the bonehead. I'm going to lean towards everyone sucks here because you both could have handled this differently. He shouldn't be driving without a license. Whatever reason he has for not having a license is his business that he needs to figure out. I can understand getting to work and errands, especially in a place with none or limited public transportation. That makes him the bonehead in this scenario. You absolutely don't need to fill out a police report in every accident, especially as minor as you're making this out to be. About a year ago, someone backed into me leaving a parking lot and ripped off my rear bumper and damaged the quarter panel. We exchanged licenses and insurance and went about our way. Insurance took care of my car and everything is good. You're the bonehead. Everyone here is focused on the wrong issue, dude not being licensed. The true issue is this the reasonable response for the situation? F no. Was your response a bonehead response? F yes. You're not even technically right, nonetheless morally right. For very limited surface damage, what, rolled into you and scratched your bumper? You do not waste law enforcement resources. Stop asking cops to do this dumb stuff. In many states, the rear car in the rear end is at fault. They're responsible for the damage. How you avoid being the bonehead? You pull to a safe space, call your insurance, give them all info, take pictures, and then move on with your day. If your insurance needs to, they'll notify law enforcement. But you wasted time, community resources, and you ruined someone's life. Also, departments of motor vehicle, not courts, control license. A court can be asked to suspend a license or the law might require it. But the DMV is the ultimate arbiter for a license to drive. So what do you think of this situation? Do you think the police should have been called, or do you think that, given what happened, calling the police was just not worth it under the circumstances? My 19 male parents had me young and on accident. My childhood was nothing but money troubles and listening to my parents scream at each other. Things only got better when my mom left my dad and started seeing my stepdad. He brought financial stability and is more of a father to me than my bio dad ever was. They have a daughter together, my sister Melody. I'm not blind. I know they shower her with attention and buy her everything they can because I had nothing when I was her age. When I was younger, it frustrated me to see her loved in a way I never was. But now I know that my mom did her best with the experience and resources she had. It's just bad luck that it worked out the way it did. With that context out of the way, Melody recently turned 4 and my parents went all out. They invited not only all the family in the area, but also some of Melody's friends from daycare and their parents. Once my mom and the other moms had a few drinks each, they started gossiping. The conversation, which I was not part of but was listening to because I was bored watching the kids, turned to sharing stories about their kids. My mom, instead of sharing cute stories about Melody, decided to tell a group of random moms about the time I tried to make my parents stop fighting by collecting change lying around the house and giving it to them. I was 7. She was laughing the whole time and ended the story with, the things you learn with the oldest practice kids, am I right? Stepdad and I never fight in front of Melody. I think that's why she's so much easier than OP. That story is a painful memory for me, so I was hurt that she thought it was so hilarious, but I didn't say anything and tried to brush it off. The moms started talking about kindergarten because a few of them have kids who will be starting in the fall. My mom, who by then was quite drunk, decided that it would be a great idea to share the story of how she Karened the school into letting me do gym class in my winter boots because that was the one pair of shoes I had. Again, she told the whole story with a grin on her face and laughing. The last thing she said made me almost blow up. Thank goodness Melody can have all the shoes she wants, though with how much crap OP pulled at that age, maybe it was best I didn't waste money on the practice kid. I texted my mom, I'm glad you find how poor and miserable we were so funny, but it really upsets me how you clearly think of me as a practice for Mel. I'm going so someone should watch the kids. Then I left without talking to anyone. When I got home, I checked my texts and found a rant from her, saying that they were her stories and she could feel any way she wanted. She called me sensitive for not taking a joke and suggested I get a therapist. I already have one and she knows that, because I was jealous of a 4-year-old. She said I was rude for leaving. I was too upset to respond then, but after some thought, I may be in the wrong. Am I the bonehead? Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. That's completely bizarre behavior. Believe me, those other moms were horrified by these funny stories. She gets to feel how she likes. She feels like the bonehead in this story and in your life. I hope you can process this with your therapist soon. OP replied, yeah, judging from their facial expressions, my mom was the only one who thought she was being funny. And yes, I'll definitely be bringing this up at my next therapy session. Not the bonehead. Drunk words are sober thoughts. Your mom said they were her stories and she could feel any way she wanted. In that case, those are your stories too, and you're well within your right to be upset. You went through trauma. You're still dealing with it to this day. You didn't ask to have those things happen to you, and you definitely didn't ask to be mocked for them by your own mother. OP replied, drunk words are sober thoughts, huh? That's a new phrase. I hope it's not true, but damn, I'm starting to think it might be in this case. Not the bonehead. She just told you what she really thought of you, and it's not pleasant. She doesn't like the reminder of her former life with your father, and you're the product of that. I'd be taking a very big step back from her and seeing a therapist to process your childhood and what's happening now. And yes, those kinder moms would not have been too impressed with your mom with both what she was saying and the fact that she was drunk at a 4-year-old's birthday party. That really wasn't a good look, and there may be a price for her to pay that she doesn't realize yet. Well, I happen to think OP's mom should also be in therapy. She clearly has unresolved issues from her past, and it's not right for her to take it out on OP. What do you think? I, 19 female, and family are on a trip out of the country. It's me, my parents, my brother and his son 11, 2 of my aunties around 30, and each of them have 2 kids, all toddlers. So in total, that's 5 kids. I have my own room, keep this in mind. At this resort, I'm able to drink, but I also don't feel comfortable to, especially around my parents. While we've been here, I kept an eye on the kids. If I'm at the pool and the adults want to go up to the swim-up bar, I'll let them. Nobody asked me, I just did it. So later that night, we go to dinner and my brother asked me to watch my nephew and I agreed. My aunts both asked me minutes later to watch my little cousins for the night and let them sleep over. I politely declined and thought it was over, until they started complaining about how they're on vacation and they should be able to enjoy it. How I'm not doing anything anyway, how I've been watching them, and how can I watch my nephew and not my cousins? I snapped and told them that these aren't my kids, and I'm on vacation just as much as they are. Going from watching 1 kid to watching 5 is ridiculous. My nephew practically lives with us back at home, so it's normal for him to be around, and he's older too. All he needs is his game and he's good. Their kids aren't bad, but it's normal for toddlers to throw tantrums and ask a million questions, which I don't have time for. My patience is thin. I reminded my aunts of the nanny services the resort provides and said they would feel safer if the kids were in family care. I told them no again and went about my day. When it was time for them to go to the club, my nephew came in my room and my aunts were at my door, dressed with their kids and a few toys. I told them I wasn't watching them and closed the door in their face. I hate feeling like I'm being walked over, so I admit I was rude, but I felt disrespected, especially after I just told them no. They ended up taking them to the nanny. Once morning hit, my mom said it was rude how I shut the door in their faces, and I should have just watched them. It takes a village to raise a child and how my aunts never get a break. My dad and brother said just because I'm the only one not drinking doesn't mean I'm automatically the babysitter. Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. Tell your mom that if she wants your aunts to have a break, she's welcome to babysit their kids herself. Bonus points if you say it in front of your aunts. See how your mom likes being steamrolled. Not the bonehead. Did they plan the vacation with you in mind for babysitting? That's just rude. OP replied, that's what I thought too. Not the bonehead. It takes a village also means one of the aunts could have stepped in, or one of the dads, or your mom. It doesn't mean this one person we picked without asking. Anybody who plays that card is just trying to sound important while skirting that they're being pushy. Showing up at your door after you said no requires a firm no and goodbye. There was nothing left to say. Your mom is also being the bonehead. You weren't doing anything wrong. When your aunts passed normal social boundaries, they required you to escalate your response. That's not rude, that's responding to the situation as required. If she felt so strongly about them having the night off, she was also available. My wife, 31 female, and I, 33 male, are now happily married for a couple of months and have been together almost 5 years. In November, I purchased a brand new car for us, and the payment was made entirely from my personal savings, my own car and motorcycle at the time, and was the most expensive vehicle I had ever purchased. And it was a brand new one. When we got the car, I had already warned her to be very careful when driving and especially parking this car because it's considerably bigger than our previous one, and also because it's very expensive and brand new, and I wanted us to keep it as pristine as possible. I tend to take the utmost care of all my things. I've had a pretty rough past when it comes to money, so I value everything I have very dearly. A few months after our purchase, she went on a car trip with my mother-in-law while I was working. My wife scuffed 3 of the 4 wheels of our car on this trip while parking, hitting them on the sidewalks. Then again, a few months later at our apartment garage while she was parking, She scratched our car with our neighbors, and they're not even parked close to each other. Now, yesterday while parking, she hit a metal dumpster that was in the street and damaged the back left portion of the car very significantly. At the previous events, my reaction was, "Damn, I told you to pay attention while parking. The wheels of this car are very expensive. You could be more careful with it." And that was pretty much it. This time I got pretty upset because it's been like 7 months since we got this brand new car and she already scoffed it completely to the point where I'm very displeased and I don't want to even drive it anymore due to sheer disgust of it. Wife told me I was never comprehensive from other incidents and was upset over my reaction from yesterday's events. She also damaged my very pristine laptop while she already had her own to use. I obviously know she doesn't do these things on purpose, but am I the bonehead for being upset when she recklessly damages my stuff? Update. Thanks for all the answers. I didn't think my post would get this many. Addressing some of the common questions. Yes, we saw the car together, and it's an SUV for the two of us. If I would choose my own car just for myself, I would buy something else. Also, the car isn't that big. It's just a medium SUV, but we had a hatchback. She has her own brand new motorcycle to use too. She also never hit our previous car. That's what's really odd to me. She's a good driver, to be fair, but seems to be very unaware this year. Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. Get her a used car if this is a pattern. OP also said she damaged my very pristine laptop while she already had her own to use. Is this just you being petty? If not, then you might want to consider wife-proofing if she's that prone to accidents. Not the bonehead. Your wife is careless. If you can afford it, buy her a used car that she can trash and you drive the new one after you get it repaired. Not the bonehead. You are being kind until the last straw. She needs to take a driving course lesson. Damn, she doesn't care about your stuff and probably not hers either. I can understand your annoyance at your wife carelessly damaging things that you're trying to keep nice, especially the laptop thing since she has her own. But also, you bought an expensive new car that is much larger than the previous one for both of you to use as the new family car. So now the only car your wife has to drive, presumably, is the new expensive fancy car, where she has to worry about any tiny scratch or scuff and is also bigger and harder to maneuver. So everyone sucks here, I guess? Your wife sounds careless, especially with the hitting the dumpster incident, and your frustration is understandable. But also, it sounds like you're more worried about keeping the car perfect than actually using it. It sounds like you need a two-car situation. You can keep your expensive new car pristine and she can get a used car to ding up. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. If you like these stories, please consider subscribing. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next Reddit story. In the meantime, please take care of yourself. Bye for now.